Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Bhakti Sutra. And in today's session, we are going to cover Shlokas 16 to 18. So before we start, let's do the prayer for Guru and God. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
I don't see Anika ji. She's studying for exams.
I know she's not keeping well, sir.
Oh, my
She didn't-
prayers and best wishes. Hope she feels better
Thank you.
soon.
Yeah.
So let us start. You want to follow? Let us start with 16th Shloka. Pūjādiṣvanurāga
Puja
Vanuraga
Vanuraga
iti
iti
pārāśaryaḥ.
pārāśaryaḥ.
In the previous Shloka, we discussed how there are
A
different
characteristic.
exactly, and we also discussed how there are different ways in which love, divine love, can be described by different people. So now Narada Ji is talking about Ved Vyas. So Narada Ji is mentioning what is Ved Vyas description. How does he describe the symptoms of divine bhakti? So what does Ved Vyas Ji say? I mean, in this particular shloka, in the worship of the Lord with deep love and firm attachment, thus describes the son of sage Parāśara, Śrī Vedavyāsa. So what does Vedavyāsa say? I mean, what is his opinion? He says that one of the symptoms of divine love is the desire for puja or worship of the Lord. So in very simple terms, if somebody is progressing on the path to Bhakti Yoga, you will see that that person has a lot of desire to do puja and worship of the Lord. Now, there is a word used here, Anurag. The word basically means an intense desire to perform puja of the Lord. That is what Anurag basically means. So if you recollect, Prahlada says, "O Hari, may not the ceaseless flow of love and attachment leave my heart while I am constantly meditating upon thee." This is in the Vishnu Purana. So Prahlada's description of the various activities involved in devotion, they are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I will share the actual Shloka numbers with you. It is 7.5.23 and 7.5.24 from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I will just say, I won't recite the Shloka, I will just say what Prahlad Maharaj is saying here. So Prahlad Maharaj says that hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, the form, qualities, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving the Lord with body, mind, and words, everything. And Prahlad Maharaj Ji talks about 9 processes, and those 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. So Prahlad Ji says that if you can dedicate your life to Vishnu through these processes, then you will be considered one of the most learned persons, because you have acquired the right knowledge, the complete knowledge. That is the required knowledge. Now, the devotion may not be consistent until we are established in yoga. Like, we are all still learning. We are all still in the beginning stages. So for us, the consistency is very difficult. See, if you remember, throughout Bhagavad Gita session, we kept repeating this word, consistency. Consistency is the key. Okay, it is the key even in material pursuits. Like tomorrow, if you think you want to get a fit body, you start going to the gym. You cannot go to the gym with a lot of josh for 5 days and then take a break for 10 days, then come back for 5 days. You're not going to really make any progress. Sometimes it will actually take you back. It's a joke, a practical joke. A person who has never done any gym, they will be relatively better off than a person who does gym for some time and then takes a big break, then comes back, does and takes a big break. Because when you do gym, you think you have worked out, so you need to eat more. But then when you take a break, you continue eating more. So anyway, so consistency is the key. So when the fruit is fully ripe, then your mind will automatically want to focus all the time on God. That is Anuraga. So when you say focus your mind, in what way? So in this 16th Shloka, according to Ved Vyas, we are focusing your mind by performing puja, actual puja of the deities. Now see, about deity worship, there's a lot of misinformation. There is a lot of confusion. People actually ask, this question is one of the most commonly asked questions, most misunderstood part of our culture. So people will always ask, oh, is that piece of stone God? How can you say that that piece of wood is God? I mean, this just seems insane, So I will try to explain to the best of my knowledge. We are not saying that the piece of wood is God. We are not saying that stone is God. We are saying they are a way for us to focus on God. These are different things. They are our way of representing God. See, for one thing, nobody knows exactly how God looks. Nobody knows exactly what his name is. Nobody knows exactly how he sounds like. See, so it is kind of childish to say that somebody knows exactly how God should look like. So saying that, hey, whatever you are using, God doesn't look like that. God looks like what I'm using. That's a very childish way of putting at it. The other aspect that we should consider is, I'm sure most of us have children, so I'm sure that at some point our children may have drawn a very funny looking, a shapeless circle with 2 dots and a stick for hands, stick for legs. And they may have come to us and said, oh, this is Papa or this is Mama. Now, everybody knows that there is no resemblance really. I mean, if you look at the actual Papa or Mama and if you look at the picture, there is really no resemblance. But the Mama or Papa, they accept it. They understand the intent of the child and they accept that as a representation of them. They say, oh yeah, your drawn Papa is so nice. That is the same way here. We have a very immature way of looking at God. That's okay. We don't have to know exactly how God looks. We don't have to know how to exactly portray God. Our intent has to be there. God understands. God knows what we are trying to do. God knows what you are trying to seek, right? So you can have just a piece of stone in front of you, but if you intend, if you have the right intention, then God will accept it as his own form. That is the whole idea behind idol worship or deity worship. They are means of letting you focus on God, and God will accept whatever you use as a tool. You get it? I think Simranji missed one of the very important part of the discussion.
No,
Okay.
I was hearing. I was here
Okay.
only.
Okay. Now there is a story. There is a story of a person called Dhanna Jat, and he's from Rajasthan, India. It's actually a true story, very popular story. You can search on the net later. So I will tell the story in a short form, just to focus on the tatparya, like what we want to take out of that story. He was illiterate and he used to work at a Panditji's house. And he started pestering the Panditji, saying, Guruji, Swamiji, give me some gyan, give me some mantra. I want to know God. And the Swamiji would keep telling him, you don't know any scriptures, you are illiterate, you can't read. What am I going to tell you? Like, how are you going to understand anything? But Dhanna is very persistent. He's like, I want to know. So what the Guruji does, the Swamiji one day was making bhang. You know what is bhang, right? This kind of, it's a drink we make. It's kind of an intoxicating drink. Do you remember there's a particular day. Yeah, during Holi day.
Mahashivratri and Holi.
Yes. That is when we make that bhang, right? So the
Yeah.
Swamiji was preparing it, and then at that time, Dhanna again pestered him, saying, tell me about God, I really want to know. So what the Swamiji does is, he takes that stone that he was using to crush bhang, he gives it to Dhanna and says, take it. That is a very divine shaligram. It is a form of Vishnu. Go take it home, worship it, offer it food, because it is a Vishnu himself. Go, take it. So he just wants to get rid of Dhanna, But you see, Dhanna is a very simple person. See, usually what happens, if you are extremely intelligent, you will get the knowledge quickly. Or if you are extremely simple, you will still get the knowledge. The problem is only people in the middle, half knowledge. They are the ones who usually struggle to understand or internalize things. So Dhanna was a very simple, illiterate person. So Swamiji said, this is God, take it home. So he just religiously took it home. He washed it. He offered flour. He offered jal, everything. And then he said, oh, Swamiji said, I have to offer food to Vishnu. So he has 2 rotis with him. So he keeps 1 roti in front of the shaligram. And he says, Vishnuji, Swamiji said, I have to offer you food. So here is, please eat. Once you eat, then I will eat. And then he waits. He waits for 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours. Vishnu is not eating. So he's very upset. He says, Vishnu, why are you not eating? Is it because instead of 2 rotis, I gave you only 1? Okay, take my roti also. So he keeps both rotis in front of Vishnu. And he says, now you eat. Again, he waits 15 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour. Vishnu doesn't eat. So Dhanna says, listen, Vishnu, I have given you everything I have. I don't know why you are not eating. It's okay. As long as you don't eat, I'm also not going to eat. I'll just sit and wait for you. So he sits in front of that shaligram and he's waiting for days. And Vishnu is observing all of this. So on the 6th day, Vishnu's heart melts. Vishnu says, look at this person's faith. Look at this person's simplicity and devotion. And the story goes that actually he gives darshan to Dhanna, and because Vishnu understands everything, and Vishnu just touches his head, and in that instance, Dhanna becomes a jnani. All the knowledge of all the scriptures, everything he has to know, just comes to him. And it is a true story. And after that, he became a well-known Swami himself, and he would preach and all of that. So the point is, this kind of God's grace, even jnanis, yogis, they take multiple births to get. But Dhanna, without knowing any scriptures, got it. Because, as we keep on saying, what is most important is the bhav, the intent, the faith. These are the most important ingredients. All the scriptures, all the jnana is to take us there, is to convince us that that is what is important. But once we understand that, then the jnana is not what is going to get us God's grace. It is the faith and it is the simplicity and the intent that is going to get. So that is the whole idea. So basically, that was not even a shaligram. It was just an ordinary stone used to make bhang. But it doesn't matter. If you have the right intent, God will accept that you are serving God, that you are seeing God. God knows what you are doing, even if you don't know. That is the point. I hope that makes sense. Now, let us remember what Sri Krishna said in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This used to be the favorite shloka of Anish. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. Whoever offers me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, that I accept when offered with devotion and pure mind. Even Shri Krishna said the same thing. So at that point, you don't have to worry, like, oh, it is just a leaf I'm offering. It doesn't matter. The intent matters, the bhav matters. A similar thing is also written in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the 11th canto, it says, the deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties. So according to Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 8 varieties of deities. I mean the materials, how we make it or how they are portrayed. What are those 8? Stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, and the mind, and jewels. These are the 8. So when they're talking about paint and all, they're basically talking about a painting. So according to our scriptures, when you talk about deity worship, it can even be a painting or it can just be a piece of stone, whatever. They're all representations of God. Now, as you can see, what is the difference between these 8? How do they differ? They all differ in how long they will last. So obviously, a deity made of sand is going to have the lowest lasting capacity because it's going to get destroyed, right? What do you think is the longest lasting out of these 8? Any guesses? I will repeat the 8 again. Stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, mind, and jewels.
Mind.
Yeah.
Mind.
Yes. There you got it. So the deity that we make through our mind is going to be the most everlasting. Nothing can destroy it. Why I am talking about this is we are going to talk about something similar in the 18th verse, but I want to make sure there is no confusion. So here we are talking about actual form of God. Now that form can be made in a sand or stone or metal or whatever, but you can also make that form in your own mind. Once you are focused enough in your meditation and devotion, you can make that form in your own mind, and that form is the most superior form of deity because it cannot get dirty, it cannot get cracked, it cannot break. That is yours forever. So that is what we are trying to say. Thus, Ved Vyas Ji says that desire for worshipping God is one of the symptoms of divine love. I hope this is clear. No questions? Okay, let's go to the 17th shloka. Kathadishu
Kathadishu
Ishu
iti gargaha.
iti gargaha.
So Garga Muni, he was another great saint. So now what is his interpretation? So according to Maharishi Garg, the symptom of bhakti is a passion for listening to the stories of his glories and leelas. So whereas Ved Vyas said the symptom of bhakti means you will be doing worship of God, like deity worship, Garg Muni says the symptom of bhakti is you will always be desiring to hear about God, God's leelas, God's glories. Now, if you remember, Sri Ram also said this as part of the explanation of Navada Bhakti. We read the Ramcharitamanas, where he said, Dusri Rati Mamakata Prasanga. Which is, he said, second step of bhakti is you have to enjoy listening to the kathas and stories of glories and pastimes of the Lord. Now, see, in the Indian philosophy, we also discussed this in Bhagavad Gita about the Indriyas. So there are Karmendriyas and Jnanendriyas. Karmendriyas are the senses which are used action-oriented, and Jnanendriyas are ones which are intellect-oriented. So, for example, Karmendriyas are what you need for speaking, walking, procreation, etc. Whereas Jnanendriyas are the organs responsible for perception, ability to see, hear, smell, taste. They are Jnanendriyas. So the position of Jnanendriyas is supposed to be higher than the position of Karmendriyas. So far, I think it's making sense. So here, Garga Muni says, because whatever Ved Vyas Ji said, the deity worship was a function of the karmendriyas, because you are actually performing worship using your hands and all of that. What Garga Muni is saying is a function of Jnanendriya. He is saying you will be listening. You want to listen to God's glories and God's leelas. Some of you may know there was a great saint named Jnanadeva. Suchita may know this. Umaji may also know this. Maybe Sulata ji also knows that. Because he used to live in a place called Alandi near Pune in Maharashtra, in somewhere in the 13th century. He was also known as Jnaneshwar, Jnaneshwar, Jnanadeva. They are all the same people. And he was one of the biggest proponents of Bhakti through Jnanendriyas. In other words, listening to God, singing kirtans. So he also is the author of Jnaneshwari, one of the most beautiful translations of, poetic translations of the Bhagavad Gita. It's written in Marathi. Yeah, incidentally, many years ago, I think, I don't know the exact time, it could be 20 years ago, I was relatively younger, I was in the corporate sector. And those were the times when I was myself struggling with the Bhagavad Gita, because I used to read it, it still used to not make full sense. And so I used to keep a copy in my desk. And so some of my colleagues saw that nobody knew Bhagavad Gita. They were all like me. They are all figuring it out, right? So one of them is a Maharashtrian. So he, on my birthday, he gifted me a book called Jnaneshwari. And I asked him, what is this? And even he didn't know exactly what it was. He said, oh, it is something related to Bhagavad Gita. So I read the Jnaneshwari first one page and I said, oh God, Bhagavad Gita is so hard. Because the Jnaneshwari is a Marathi, pure Marathi poem. And for like at least a few days, I was very discouraged. I'm like, oh, is Bhagavad Gita so tough that when am I going to understand? But yeah, later on, it all made sense. Just a funny episode. So the idea that Jnaneshwar had was the inclination towards singing, inclination towards listening. So he also composed what are called as abhangs. These abhangs are Marathi poems which you don't need to be a scholar. Even common illiterate people can listen to these abhangs and just follow along. That was the whole idea. He wanted the population, general population, to take part in kirtans and singing the glories of the Lord. And the other thing about abhangs was there are no rules. Like, it is not like you have to take a bath and you have to do it on a Thursday. There's no such thing. You can sing the abhangs whenever you want, wherever you want, whoever you are. That was the beauty. And so there are other saints like Eknath Maharaj, Tukaram Maharaj. They all got inspired by Jnaneshwars, and they also continued the legacy of abhangs, writing and singing abhangs. And Jnaneshwar was also responsible for starting the Varkari movement. So it was Jnaneshwar who started that whole concept of Varkaris, where people will go and, go on this long tour and they will go and worship Vitthal. It's a very beautiful tradition. And on the way, they are constantly singing abhangs and kirtans. That is the whole idea. The idea is they will use that entire procession to remember God and sing God's glories, and they will also be listening to God's leelas and glories. Such a beautiful concept. Now, Sri Krishna has also emphasized the importance of kirtan and chanting in the Bhagavad Gita. You can read Bhagavad Gita Shloka 9.14. So 9.14 says, always chanting and singing my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion.
Ratam Kirti.
Exactly. Satatam kirtayanto mam. So that is Lord Krishna's recommendation as well. And Lord Chaitanya's Shikshastakam. So it is said that Lord Chaitanya himself officially only documented 8 shlokas. Now, I don't either argue against or for, but this is what is commonly believed, and that is called as the Shikshastakam. So in that, he says, I don't want to make a mistake in pronunciation, so I will not recite the actual shloka, but I'll just say the explanation. The Shishtathakam says, the increasing ocean of transcendental bliss, the tasting of the full nectar of immortality, and the complete purification of the self. All these are achieved through the chanting of the Lord's holy names, the Krishna Sankirtana. This is what Lord Chaitanya also has said. So I'm just quoting many different sources and many different saints and sages who are all talking about the same thing, about chanting and hearing and listening to the God's glories and leelas as being a symptom of divine love or bhakti. It is also written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a very beautiful work, which I think we can read much later. I mean, once we are growing on the path of bhakti, succeeding, then Chaitanya Charitamrita will make more sense. So there it is said, the holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself. See, this is the most important concept that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and explained to us, is the name of Krishna and Krishna, they are not different. So if we can chant or take the name of Krishna with the right bhav, the right intent, we have Krishna. Krishna is with us. That is the whole concept. That is one of the reasons why chanting the name is given so much importance. Any doubts so far? Okay, maybe we can go to the 18th shloka. Atmarati
Atmarati
avirodena
Virodena
iti
Virodena
shandilyaha.
Iti Shandilyaha.
So it means the devotion for God, which is not opposed to attachment to inner self, is true devotion, according to sage Chandilya. Now, Narada Ji is explaining the opinion of Chandilya Muni. Do you remember Chandilya Muni? Did we discuss Chandilya Muni anytime? Does the name ring a bell? No? Okay. We discussed his name when we were talking about the introduction to Bhakti Sutra, where we said that Narada Muni approaches Bhakti from the heart, whereas Chandilya Muni approaches Bhakti through the intellect. So Chandilya Muni has also written a Bhakti Sutra, but that Bhakti Sutra is a very intellectual analysis of Bhakti. So it is that Chandilya Muni, and here he is talking about what he believes to be a symptom of Bhakti or divine love. So what he believes, that Bhakti, whatever we offer, whatever we do, it should all be internal to us instead of anything external. Let us try to understand what he is trying to say. Like some of us, let us take any temple, like maybe a very most popular temple these days in Maharashtra is Shirdi, the Shirdi temple, right? And I know many friends who have been there. I have also been there many times. Now, when somebody goes to Shirdi, and then when we are discussing what their experience was, one person will say, oh, such a big marketing complex they have built. The other person will say, oh, have you seen that they have kind of, redone the whole perimeter? Now there are walls and this. Somebody else will say, oh, did you go to the place where they distribute prasad? It's so big and the prasad is so tasty. And somebody else will say, oh, did you see the mukut on Baba? That is 50 crore rupees worth of gold. But tell me something, does any of this resonate with bhakti? Because these are all distractions. We didn't go to Shirdi to look at the mukut. We didn't go to Shirdi to look at the canteen. Correct? This is what Chandilya Muni is trying to say. Chandilya Muni is trying to say the external, there should not be, that is not what is bhakti. The bhakti is to be everything internal. Now, basically, Chandilya Muni says you have to avoid external distractions, if you put it in other words. That is his pretty much philosophy. But what he more specifically says is we have to take delight only in the Atman. In other words, don't even depend on a deity, don't depend on a painting. You have to take delight only in your own Atman. Now, what is his logic is, when the devotee progresses on the path of bhakti, see, it's a very logical reasoning. If you see, what he says is, when a devotee actually makes progress on the path of bhakti, when you get closer and closer, you will realize that your soul is a tiny spark of God himself. So in other words, your soul is God. Qualitatively, it may not be the same quantitatively, but qualitatively, your God, your soul is the same as God. So he says, when that is the case, why do you want anything else? So that is his reasoning. So according to him, a symptom of divine bhakti is you are totally relying on enjoying your own Atma, taking delight in your own Atma. Sri Krishna has also said something similar in chapter 3.17, where he says that, but those who rejoice in the self, who are illumined and fully satisfied in the self, for them there is no duty. So who is that them? He's talking about those elevated souls. So Krishna is also saying that one of the symptoms is these elevated souls, they are fully satisfied in their own self-realization. This can also lead to a discussion and debate around worshipping particular forms of God versus worshipping formless aspects. So there are so many aspects here, like should it be external, should it be internal? Even if it is internal, should you be focusing on a form of God, or should you be trying to visualize or focus on the formless aspect of God? You know, Saguna versus Nirguna. We discussed that also in the Bhagavad Gita. Now in chapter 12, Arjuna had asked a question to Shri Krishna. Evam satata yukta ye bhaktas tvam paryupasate e chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Arjuna is asking, between those who are steadfastly devoted to and focused on your personal form and those who worship your formless aspect, between these two, whom do you consider to be more perfect in yoga? Arjuna had a similar question. And the Lord said, Mai aveshya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayopetas te me yuktama mataha. The Lord said, those who fix their minds on me and always engage in my devotion with steadfast faith, I consider them to be the best yogis. And then he also says, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifest, the path of realization is full of tribulations. It is very hard. See, this we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita sessions, that the very fact that the formless aspect means what? It is the unmanifested aspect. But we are a manifested entity. Our eyes are manifested, our ears are manifested, our head, our brain, everything is manifested. Now, how can you use a manifested entity to perceive the unmanifested? It is very difficult, because there has to be a lot of intellectualization happening. There has to be a lot of... It's very hard. That's what Krishna himself also said. So Krishna said he prefers if you focus on a form. And later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself has said that I have a form. I am formless, but I also have a form. So it is perfectly okay for us. And in fact, focusing on a form is better for us, because that is easier and that gives us the same results. Because as I said again, you don't have to sit and debate what is accurate. It doesn't matter, because God knows what you are trying to reach. God knows that you are thinking about Him. So you don't have to worry whether the image of God is perfect or the structure of God is perfect. You just focus on your bhava and intent. That is what even Krishna has advised. So in my humble opinion, although Maharishi Shandilya's philosophy is very logical, because it was logical, right? I mean, he said, in Bhakti, you realize how your soul is a tiny part of God. That's all fine. And then he says, because you now realize that your soul is God, why don't you just depend on that? Why do you depend on anything else? So it's very logical, but it is not very practical. And Shri Krishna himself has confirmed that in the Bhagavad Gita. Because Krishna himself has said that for human beings, it is impractical to try and reach him by meditating on or focusing on the formless aspect. It is much easier and effective to use a form. So that is where, but in my opinion, whatever Shandilya Muni has said, out of that, we should focus on the part where he talks about Ananda. Because Shandilya Muni basically says that you have to derive Ananda through your own Atma. So this through your own Atma part is not very easy, but the Ananda part is important. In my opinion, this is what is also said by many self-realized saints and sages. How can we, this is a question not to ask others, it is a question to ask ourselves. How can we say that I mean, this is very profound, because when I'm saying this, I'm kind of telling myself, hey, you should know this, you know. So one of the quickest way to say whether you ask yourself, am I progressing on bhakti? Okay. What answer will you get? That depends on the second question. Am I more blissful than what I was yesterday? If I'm more miserable than what I was yesterday, then I'm not progressing on bhakti. So if you are truly progressing on bhakti, today you should be more blissful than what you were yesterday. And eventually you have to be in a state of Satchidananda, where you are fully in eternal bliss. That should be your goal. So till you reach there, at every stage, are you more blissful, getting more blissful, or are you getting more miserable? Are you getting more upset and worried and sad and all of that? So if the answer is, I am feeling more blissful, then God bless you, you are on the right path, you are progressing on bhakti. If the answer is, no, I don't think I'm more blissful than I was yesterday, then introspect. What am I doing wrong in my bhakti yoga? And try to fix it. So simple. This, I think, is the most profound part of what Shandilya Muni has said. So Shandilya Muni has said, let us not focus on the part where he said it has to be only internal and you don't need anything external. But he said, you have to get ananda and bliss. That is a very, very objective indication of whether we are succeeding and growing on the path of bhakti. Because any success in bhakti yoga will always result in bliss. It is guaranteed. If it is not resulting in bliss, then you are not doing bhakti, you are doing something else. Okay, so I think with this we can conclude today's session. Hare Krishna. Again, I apologize for the initial blunder, and maybe I'm just a little tired. My brain was not working. But now after revising Shandilya Muni's shloka, now again, I'm fine. I have to be more blissful. So I can open the floor for any questions, comments, anything else you want to add?
Vinayji,
Yes, Narada Ji.
when explaining earlier this Nirakara and which is the other forms? Sakara, is it? Nirakara and
Yeah, with Akar and Nirakar, and also Saguna and Nirguna. Saguna is you have all gunas, and Nirguna means you have no guna.
you had mentioned that Saguna is the will be more better, because God's mercy will be there.
Correct. Wow, I'm super impressed. You remember that part. Yes. Because mercy is also a guna.
Yeah.
So if you are nirguna, then you don't have mercy also.
Yeah. Only
So-
through intellect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that is why that path is very hard. That path is very dry. Very sharp, very dry, and very hard path. So excellent. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I think someday very soon, Sulata ji should start taking some batches of Bhagavad Gita.
No, not it. Zero.
No, you should. I think.
Well, to face the challenges in life. So I'm nowhere.
We are all facing challenges. No, I wish I could say that I'm self-realized. No, I'm also still struggling. I'm also growing. So this is the paradox. The paradox is people who have truly achieved self-realization, they don't like to talk. They don't want to talk. They don't want to explain anything to anybody. They are in their Sachidananda state. They are blissful. So we usually get all our lessons, all our learnings from fellow strugglers. Yeah. Like even Ramana Maharishi is a great example. He was a self-realized soul, but he would not talk. Most of the times he would want to be just silent. So you had to be yourself very advanced in Bhakti Yoga to understand what he is trying to convey without talking. So Sulata ji, to answer your question, I think struggling, we are all struggling. What is important is the intent, and you also have a good memory, which is very important for teaching. Because when people ask questions, you should remember the answers.
So, as you said, now we should ask ourselves whether we are blissful or not, but that is not happening. It's getting more.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I mean, but these are all such good tips. Tips to kind of really do a self-check. What is the point in just going on reading for days and months and years, but without having any way to measure how it is helping us? So these are all very good, quick tips.
The most
Vairagya.
important,
Yeah, go ahead.
the most helpful one is that knowledge of Atma. That at least consoles you, when you think that this is all temporary. This is like a movie going on, which we are watching as Atma. So
True.
that
True. It should just not become an escapism. Because sometimes people misunderstand it and they say, why should I do anything? Because it's all temporary, it's all Maya. That's not the point. The point is we are here for a purpose. And if we can understand the purpose is we have to turn towards God. The purpose is we have to realize the nature of God. Purpose is to realize our own relationship with God. Until that purpose is not fulfilled, it's going to be a live, die, repeat. So are you blissful? More blissful now than you were 1 hour ago.
yeah.
Okay. That means this class was meaningful. Thank you, everybody. Really grateful.
One hour means we are not worry about any worldly things. So we are talking about that one, and that the bhakti is inside. Still, it's good. I feel like that even when doing puja or going to temple or whatever might be, I forget everything. That's a thing. I am very happy inside. I don't know how to express that one, but I'm happy. That is the one. So the 1 hour also, I'm very happy with that one. But this is my feeling.
Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for being supporting and being regular, because it helps me also be regular, because I know that, at least these few people are going to be there. So I make sure that my notes are ready. no matter what. So thank you all for helping me also. Poonamji wants to say something.
Yeah, Lakshmi said just now, no, that we feel happy. I also don't know what I'm achieving, what I'm listening. Miss, it is going my, but I feel very happy to attend the session. I want to be regular, like I don't want to miss it. I don't know, internally I feel I've achieved something. Maybe not the gyan and all the words and difficult notes and everything, but I'm achieving something out of it. That's my thank you to you. That I feel very satisfied, happy to attend the session.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You are very kind. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
maybe not very intellectual or reciting shlokas and all, but still I feel I'm getting something out of it.
Very encouraging. Thank you so much.
Really.
So we'll see you all tomorrow then in our Bhagavad Gita session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Have
Yeah.
a wonderful evening and a wonderful day.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.